The previous lesson, we have learned hypertension. Hypertension is high blood pressure. Hypotension is low blood pressure. Considering hypertension and hypertension, as I told you before, hypertension is very common and it can cause series of health problems. Hypertension, it's not that common, but sometimes we can also find hypertension. It is low blood pressure. Now, this low blood pressure is mainly due to a lack of volume of blood. So, lack of volume of blood, or maybe a lack of important solute. Example, protein of blood. So, either volume or dissolved solute is the main cause for low blood pressure, right? So lack of volume of blood, the volume decrease, this can happen due to many reasons. For example, a bleeding. So a bleeding, and bleeding is medically considered as hemorrhage. So hemorrhage is the correct medical terminology for bleeding. Now bleeding causes loss of blood. So this can happen due to many reasons. So bleeding can happen due to a example, dengue, hemorrhage. Bleeding due to dengue. And other conditions which might important, for example, malnutrition. So nutritional problem and fasting can also reduce the volume and the composition of the blood. So this can cause low blood pressure, malnutrition, fasting, and some kind of physiological conditions. So physiological conditions are, example, if we sleep on the bed and we try to stand up very quickly, then the blood pressure cannot adjust within that short period of time. So lying and standing position can also cause a low blood pressure. But we don't have much to talk about hypertension than compared to the hypertension, because hypertension is something very important. Many risk factors can cause hypertension, and hypertension can increase the pressure of the blood, which can cause damage to the organs. Kidney damage is a very common thing when there is hypertension. So it's a life-threatening conditions, hypertension. We can also look one of the important conditions which can change the diameter of blood vessel due to hypertension. Okay, next we're going to learn coronary circulation. Okay. Now you can see aorta is the main blood vessel of the heart, and aorta is leaving from the left ventricle with high pressure. And when it leaves out of the heart, the base of the aorta, there is a blood vessel coming out, and this blood vessel is called coronary artery. The coronary artery, as it is starting from this aorta, start to branch. So it can form many branches like this. So this branching pattern is also very important, because when it makes so much of branch, if something happen in the one branch, only that part is affected. Contrast to this, if we see something like this, which is not just, I just wanted to show it only, but we don't have. If the coronary artery is like this, now you see only few branches. If something happen at one place, for example, let's say there's a block here, then the whole part is affected. If there's a block, there's no blood supply to this part. But here, if it is branching like this, then there's a block here, only this part is affected. Because we can see there is a condition called blockage of the coronary artery. If the blockage of coronary artery happen and there's a no blood supply to that area, that muscles are dying. In order to prevent this kind of situations, it has a interconnected, a heavily branching patterns. So, and these sometimes are connected to each branch. Sometimes it's called collateral circulation, and this unique branching pattern minimize, in case of blockage, the damage to the heart is minimized. So this coronary circulation is very important because it ensures efficient blood supply to all the heart muscles. Otherwise, if less blood supply to the heart muscles, contraction reduced, volume of blood going out reduced, cardiac output reduced, this can be fatal, because brain and other vital organs do not get enough blood, that can cause death of a person. So coronary circulation is very important circulation in the heart. And after that, the venous side. So these venous side capillaries are formed, and the venous side is also collected this blood to the other sides, and then they make these cardiac veins. And the cardiac veins are connected to a larger area called coronary sinus. So this one is the coronary artery. And here, when the blood is moving to the coronary sinus, then the coronary sinus open into the right atrium. So this open into the right atrium. So cardiac veins, coronary sinus, right atrium. So it goes to the right atrium. So then there's a smooth flow back into the heart. So if blood is not going to the coronary sinus, and this blood directly connected with the veins, and it again going to the right atrium. So this is again veins. They directly go into the right atrium. So the major part of the venous blood going through the coronary sinus, and remaining part still can use the cardiac veins to drain into the right atrium, ensuring that all the blood move into the right atrium. So then it is also important to maintain this flow, as the coronary artery bring the blood with high pressure, and then blood move to the nutrition and oxygen and nutrient move to all the cardiac muscle cells, and then the carbon dioxide and waste product collected by the veins, and they drain into the right atrium. So this ensure very smooth and efficient blood supply to the heart muscles, which is essential for the function of the heart. So this is the coronary circulation of the heart. Okay, now we're going to learn consequences if the coronary arteries blocked. Consequences of uh, blockage of coronary artery. Consequence of blockage of coronary arteries. Right. Before we try to understand what will happen after block, what can cause the block? So first of all, we have to understand what can cause the block. Now we're going to understand it like this way. This is the wall of the artery. An artery wall, the inside, line up by endothelial cells. And in the middle layers are formed by various fibers, elastic fibers, and smooth muscles. And the outside is more rich in collagen fibers. This is the endothelium, a single cell layer. Okay, now the inside of the blood vessel is called a lumen, which is filled with the blood. That's a lumen. And you know, when the certain level of pressure inside the blood vessel, it is always the pressure exert on the endothelial cell layer on the walls of the blood vessels. There is a standard amount of pressure exerted by the blood on the endothelial cells. Previously, we discussed hypertension, high blood pressure. Now, high blood pressure is not a good thing. Extra force coming up to the endothelial cells. extra force can coming up to the endothelial cells. When they have an extra force due to high blood pressure, it can damage the endothelial cells. So we can find many factors which can damage the endothelial cells. So I list something: high blood pressure, hypertension, smoking, so high blood pressure and smoking are very common and well known factors which can damage the endothelial cells. Now, not only this damage, but the person's, again, like in high blood pressure, the person has risk factors. What are the risk factors? Gender, age, diet, high cholesterol, high fat, high carbohydrate diet, then lack of exercise, and then uh, toxic compound, even smoking. There are a lot of toxic compound in smoke. Stress, too much salt, a lot of cholesterol, so high blood pressure. So if person has again these kind of risk factors, this lead damage to the endothelial cells. So if the endothelial cell damage, I'm showing like this. This is the intact endothelial cells, and here there is a damaged. Now, what is the response from the body? If the damage is there, body try to heal the process. Body is trying to repair the process by involving many cells which are mainly belong to the immune system. So immune system cells trying to repair this damage, thinking that is kind of a harmful insult to the body. Then we can observe white blood cells, that is a part of the immune system, they are moving to this area. At the same time, something bad happened. The circulating blood, which contain cholesterol. So this cholesterol transport in combination with proteins, protein and the phospholipid. So cholesterol is insoluble. As a result, if we look at this complete molecules, these complete molecules, we can find like this. So if I try to enlarge this one, and we can find phospholipid like this. Because phospholipid head region is water soluble, tail is hydrophobic, hydrophilic and hydrophobic. And there are protein molecules. So protein molecules also water soluble top side, other side is not water soluble. And inside, we can find cholesterol molecules are packed. So one of the component like this is named as low density lipoprotein, LDL. So LDL is transport molecules in the blood which transport cholesterol, and LDL main function is to deliver cholesterol to various part of the body. Now, unfortunately, this situation is also bad. The LDL start to deposit. So cholesterol start to deposit in this area. Now, what white blood cells trying to do, it try to remove the cholesterol from this area. However, white blood cells unable to remove the cholesterol, white blood cells trap here with the cholesterols. And this is an unfavorable situation. A lot of chemicals secrete. This chemical trying to increase the cellular mass in this area. For example, smooth muscle cells can proliferate. So this is not ending story. Things are going on and on. Endothelial cell damage, cholesterol deposit, white blood cells migrate and try to remove the area, but it doesn't, it can't heal the process. Many cells proliferate. And also finally, there are other molecules like calcium deposit in this area. Now, overall, we can see now very crowded picture, and this crowded picture is also very thick and hard. This one is very thick and hard, and it is growing now. This is called atheroma. And whole process, what I explained, is called atherosclerosis. The whole process is atherosclerosis. So number one, endothelial cell damage. So endothelial cell damage, cholesterol deposit, white blood cells migrate, calcium deposit, atheroma formed. So what are the steps again? Endothelial cell damage, cholesterol deposit, white blood cell migrate and try to remove the cholesterols, and calcium deposit, and atheroma formed. So atheroma formed, now we can observe the blood vessels like this. This is a lumen of blood vessel, and now we can see a growth like this. So this is the growth. As a result, the direct consequence is diameter reduce, blood vessel diameter reduce. So reduce the diameter of blood vessels as a consequence of atherosclerosis. Okay. Now, what is the effect of atherosclerosis? The first effect is it can increase the blood pressure, because if blood vessel is like this and there is a block or narrowing here, then the blood flow from this direction, you can see at this point it has go through a narrow space, so blood pressure increase. So when blood pressure increase at this place, there's a risk of formation of small blood clot inside the blood vessels. So blood clot form inside the blood vessels. It is called thrombosis. Now imagine if this happened in the coronary arteries. So this happened in the coronary arteries at this point, and now it is branching like this. And if the clot start from this place and move forward, and it blocked here. So if it is blocked, there is no blood supply to this area. So this clot formed, and the clot is moving down here. And when it sees the smaller blood vessels, it can't go forward. Because here, the size is like this, but when it comes to the here, size is like this. And this is the clot. So when the clot comes to this place, it cannot go forward. So it blocked. This is the blockage of coronary artery. So we can discuss so many things. If this formed, let's say number one, it is forming here. It takes time. It's a slow process. The consequence is less blood supply, and then person feels somehow bit of pain if there's a less blood supply. But here, if it is blocked all of a sudden, no blood supply to this area. There is no blood supply to the cardiac muscle. It's a completely blocked. So this kind of a situation is called myocardial infarction. So what is myocardial infarction? A death of heart muscles due to lack of blood. So commonly we call this heart attack. Heart attack is myocardial infarction. Myocardial infarction is death of heart muscles. And if person is developing this condition, maybe he feel less blood at this point. Okay, second point is myocardial infarction. But first point, still sometimes less blood. But it is not a big issue. Muscles are not dying, they experience less blood, and person is getting the pain. So this pain is called angina. So angina is a chest pain due to lack of blood to the heart muscles, but muscles are not dying, again maybe recovered because again blood is coming. So angina and myocardial infarction are due to the atherosclerosis. In case if a blood clot, so any clot coming from this, and the chance of going to the brain, and it blocked the blood supply of the brain. So this is called a stroke. Stroke is a condition, again, lack of blood supply due to a thrombosis or clot, any other type of clot in the brain, that is called a stroke. Okay, so this is the coronary circulation and blockade of coronary circulation. So in this lesson, we have learned hypertension. Hypertension is low blood pressure, which is not common as hypertension, could lead due to two reasons: volume lack or maybe solute lack. And then the coronary circulation is very important circulation, and blockage of coronary circulation is a life-threatening situation, heart attack, myocardial infarction, and we have learned how this happens over the time, slowly progressive to blockage, narrow down of the artery lumen, and that can cause completely blockade of tiny blood vessels, and that can lead death of the cardiac myocyte called myocardial infarction, or the pain due to this development is called angina, or block in the brain blood vessel is called stroke.